What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. So I'm watching some classic TNA stuff yesterday, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna make something on it. I want some inspiration for a potential video. This popped up in my mind, and I thought to myself, why not? I had already made one video on AJ Styles, and that was about his quick ascension to becoming WWE Champion, and I never made something related to his TNA run, which is clearly the place where he made a name for himself. Plus, it ain't like Christopher Daniels and LAX aren't awesome. I mean, they are. This feud in particular, to many, is one of the greatest tag team feuds in TNA history. You know, both teams had incredible matches. A blood feud that was violent from the very start. Right out of the gate, that contract signing showed that this ain't going to be fun and games. So yes, this is the video to make for today. Will more TNA content come? Hell yeah. One problem I have, though, is the fact that they don't have much post-2008 episodes of Impact. It really irritates me because I want to make a main event Mafia video, and it just can't be made that easily without the Impact episodes. Yes, what do you guys want? Just comment down below and I'll definitely make something about them in the very, very near future. Yeah. So how did this feud begin? Well, first of all, I gotta give you a little background. AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels at this point in time were rivals turned partners. They found success in the X division, capturing the division's respective championship several times. Styles won it 5 times, whereas Daniel captured it twice. In the summer of 2006, the duo ended up becoming partners and challenged America's Most Wanted for the tag belts. They won them, and at this point in time, Daniels and Styles were hungry champions. They were ready to face anybody that came knocking on their door and enter LAX. At this point in time, the Latino-American Exchange felt they were wronged by TNA management due to being Latinos. They were doing all kinds of stuff, like they had their own commentary booth and whatnot, so they were angry. Conan was leading the charge, whereas Homicide and Hernandez did all the dirty work. On the July 20th, 2006 episode of Impact, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels offered a contract to any tag team in the back to challenge for the belts at Hard Justice. The Fallen Angel said that it feels good to stand here as the tag team champions, but despite this, he felt that they had yet to establish themselves as undisputed champs. This stems from jealousy from other tag teams in the back. Daniels especially wanted to show that they're legit. The contracts from their part was signed. All one of those tag teams had to do was come down to the ring and sign their part. They mentioned a couple of teams, and Conan interrupted, and he clearly had an issue with this. He called them a couple of gringos, and most importantly, overrated. AJ assured him that there is a contract for LAX, but Conan was still under the belief that there's nothing in the envelope, and the entire time, in his eyes, they've been ducking LAX. Daniels heard enough and tossed that contract in Conan's way. This turned out to be a setup. Homicide and Hernandez attacked. AJ Styles was thrown around. Homicide hit the gringo killer. The commentary team was going crazy, and Daniels was a busted mess. To top it all off, Conan signed the contract with Daniels' own blood. So that's one hell of a statement. LAX had enough of this spoon feeding from TNA management and wanted to do something about it. And that's what I could take away from this. Daniels and AJ, they were fighting champions, and they were going to take on all comers. 2 weeks later, LAX were set to compete in a matchup. Conan once again provided his commentary. Hernandez and Homicide easily dismantled the competition, but on the big screen, there was AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels. This time around, Styles was the one who was all fired up and was ready to fight, but Daniels quickly put a stop to it and challenged Homicide to a matchup for next week. Daniels promised the match won't end with a 1-2-3, but a 1-8-7 before calling him a bitch. Conan was busy calling him a turtle and said that they'll do whatever it takes to bring the titles to the Latino nation. The match went down, and I should know this was the go-home show for Hard Justice. But anyways, Daniels was pretty aggressive, whereas LAX were very dirty. They utilized some tactics, but despite that, Daniels got Homicide to tap. Unfortunately, though, ref didn't notice, and Hernandez hit the Cracker Jack, giving the victory to Homicide. After the match, they continued the attack, leading to a chair-wielding AJ Styles coming for the save. He whooped their asses and sent Conan running. As for their match at Hard Justice, pretty damn good. It wasn't as good as their next matches, but still, the match served to intensify the feud. It didn't really do much to alleviate the heat the feud had. The hatred between these two grew as time went on. There were some cool spots. Everyone was flying high, shooting stars, towers of doom, Cracker Jacks, and then to top it all off, Conan got involved, and things seemed bleak for the champs, but Styles managed to counter the Gringo Killer and double team Hernandez with a high-low to retain. LAX didn't take this loss lightly, because right when Impact began that week, the Fallen Angel's face was being smashed into a table. It was once again a bloody pulp, and AJ Styles meanwhile took a bad landing on the ramp. It was some very rough stuff, but despite all of this, both men still had fight in them. I mean, are you seriously gonna mess with this guy? Hell no. Conan always chose his moments perfectly, like here. He smashes a bottle over AJ's head, and then Rhino and Monty Brown, of all people, ran in brawling. Brother runs, Abyss, Samoa Joe, Jeff Jarrett, the champ was there too. It was supposed to be a party for himself, and it was all ruined. Despite all the chaos he was celebrating, Sting ended up clearing house, I should know, but yeah, a violent understatement start to TNA Impact. Due to the brawl, Christopher Daniels was seething. He felt LAX should have just asked, but if they want it this way, they're gonna get it. And not only they're gonna defend the tag titles in any type of match they want, he said that they won't stop until LAX is dead. Conan heard them loud and clear and demanded a border brawl match. He said that they attacked on purpose, and next time they meet, LAX will go 5-1-5-0 on them. They had the match the following week, and it ended up being AJ and Chris's wrongdoing. Right out of the gate, they brought the fight to the challengers. Now, if you didn't know, the match suited LAX because of their gang-like mentality, but initially, it seemed like the champions were comfortable in there. Daniels leaped over the announce table and onto Hernandez, and I did find it funny that unlike AJ, he's wrestling with a damn dress shirt on. The champs were easily carved up due to their previous cuts, and as time went on, it felt like the challengers were in the driver's seat because it was their match specialty. Daniels was taking some very high risks such as this, and it wasn't working, and AJ meanwhile had a hell of a lot of fire in him, and he realized that the titles were slowly getting away from them. Once again, Conan chose the perfect moment to get involved when he blasted Fallen Angel with something, and Homicide capitalized with the cutter through the table to capture the NWA Tag Team Championships. Yo, that was really entertaining, not a slow moment. The guys were resilient, and they were just killing each other inside and outside of the ring. Simply put, awesome stuff. Conan's plan was coming to fruition, you know, that being to take over TNA, and things were looking good for them. The following week, the trio came out, and Conan said that this victory is for all the Latinos legally and illegally in the US, and the title win is dedicated to the Latino wrestlers before them, the likes of Tito Santana, Carlos Colon, Chavo, Hector, and Eddie Guerrero. The fans applauded them, and he quickly told them that he still hates them. It wasn't about them. It was about the Latinos. Right afterwards, Daniels and AJ once again sporting band-aids popped up on the big screen. The Fallen Angel admitted that he and Styles kind of underestimated them, but it was no problem because they got the rematch and no surrender. And since LAX made them play their own game, it was time for them to challenge the champions to the first ever Tag Team Ultimate X match. This clearly irritated LAX, especially Conan, because the match type wasn't really something that Homicide and Hernandez were good at. Like, they never competed in an Ultimate X match, and yeah, they had their reasons to be angry. Even though they were the champs, Conan still had a lot to complain about. That being the fact that AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels were the two jackasses that were featured on the No Surrender poster, and because of this, he promised to humiliate those hoes and send AJ Styles back to the dark matches and Daniels to Las Vegas where he'll work with the Blue Men. The former champs quickly sprinted out there and kneed the heels right out of there. Daniels teased what's to come, and Homicide was ready to run in there and do something about it, but he didn't, obviously. So yeah, very heated feud. I don't need to say it, you can see it with your own eyes. There it is. The teams had one final confrontation before No Surrender, and it was ugly. First of all, Conan planned a Latino Heritage Week party. Uncle Sam was hung in the middle of the ring, and he promised to bring a level of violence to the match that it will be rechristened the Ultimate LAX match. He mentioned the American Constitution and how it says all men are created equally, unless you're white. He was talking about how Latinos were all over the US. And again, whooping on Uncle Sam, and how after they dominate, there'll no longer be oppression, exploitation, all of that. And his motto was by any means necessary. This led to Styles and Daniels running out there once again. Conan almost got some, but once again he left without a beating. The numbers were getting to the guys, and Conan then brought in a kendo stick. AJ got a power bomb, and then they tied him to that rope like a piñata and whacked him. And yes, he was bleeding as a result of the attack. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, right? As for their Ultimate X match for the NWA Tag Titles, excellent. Definitely one of the best matches of that year for sure. I mean, it was just flat out awesome. In the beginning, Daniels knew what to do, and that's go after Homicide's arm. This gave him and Styles the chance to go after Hernandez. AJ climbs up but is quickly thrown down. Then Homicide hits one hell of a suicide dive. It was so good that it initiated a TNA chant, but AJ quickly tried stealing the show with a dive of his own. And in the ring, he would soon learn that high flying ain't such a good thing to do all the time. LAX grabbed a hold of a ladder, but not much is accomplished due to this. Daniels took a damn cracker jack off the top rope. Homicide, meanwhile, despite the pain in the arm, was hanging from that rope. AJ though then comes in and tries dropping him down. He did succeed, but not the way he hoped because he took a cutter. Incredible, grueling action from both teams. I mean, look at this stuff. Suddenly AJ has momentum, Pele kick, that impressive inverted DDT, but then he made the odd decision of trying to suplex Hernandez of all people. Even when Daniels attempted to make it easier for him, nope. Frog splash missed from Homicide, but Hernandez was a powerhouse, so it didn't matter. And at this moment, Styles and Daniels realized we should isolate him, and damn did they do it. Styles was putting in a shift to keep the big guy down. He was really pulling out all the stops because only a few seconds later, he style clashed Homicide through a table. And seeing as his guys were losing, Conan runs in there, and so Daniel climbs to the top of the truss because Conan had a kendo stick and leaps over to the belt, grabbing it to win the tag titles. Oh man, that was exhilarating. It was total non-stop action wrestling at its finest. As a matter of fact, it's just that. TNA. Incredible match, definitely one of the best matches of 2006 in my eyes, regardless of whatever promotion we're talking about. These guys just had some great chemistry. They always had some entertaining matches. Following No Surrender, neither team appeared on Impact that week. However, there was this little incident between AJ Styles and LAX in Mexico. And I should know, at this point, a 6 Sides of Steel match was planned for Bound for Glory. But as for the Mexico incident, AJ Styles was getting interviewed or whatever, but then he got jumped by 20 people. It was random. On that week's Impact, LAX destroyed 2 jobbers. One went by the name of Tyler Black, and it showed that both sides were determined to score that W. After the match, Conan assured everyone that they're going to bring the titles back to the Latino nation, and of course he complained about the Ultimate X match, but it didn't matter to him because they were going to show a whole level of violence in the 6 Sides of Steel match. Following week, LAX was on the hunt for some gringo meat, but it turned out the opposite occurred, and this was like the first time Conan actually got his ass beat in a long time. After the commercial break, the brawl spilled into the arena. Hernandez was bloody. Homicide was getting choked out. They just couldn't gain any kind of offense until Conan made the attack again, and that's how they turned the tide. LAX teased what's to come at Bound for Glory by locking Daniels next to their entrance area, and so AJ made the attempt to climb up. He was unsuccessful. It was a messy situation. Yes, these guys, they absolutely despised each other. On the final Impact before Bound for Glory, both teams actually faced each other. Styles and Daniels teamed up with the James Gang to face LAX and America's Most Wanted. And once again, the brawl was all over the place. It was fast-paced and AJ Styles went on a hell of a roll, but then he got super kicked. Things got heated with AMW and LAX, and this led to a W for the team of Styles, Daniels, and the James Gang. After the match, LAX proceeded to attack America's Most Wanted, and Hernandez even gave Gail Kim a brutal-looking border toss. Damn. It didn't matter who you are, if you get in their way, they're gonna plow right through you. Yes, that was very crazy to see, Gail Kim being thrown in the air and then slammed on the man. Oh, man. So it all came down to this. Bound for Glory, 6 Sides of Steel. AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels defend the NWA Tag Team Championships against LAX. It was good. Once again, they delivered, and I, of course, prefer the Ultimate X match, but this was totally different. I mean, it was a cage match. Initially, Styles and Daniels were the aggressors. They were quick, fluid, a unit, basically. It took a bit for LAX to catch up to the team, but once they didn't let go easily. Styles was bleeding. Conan was handing Homicide a fork by the looks of it, and yes, Daniels was bleeding as a result of this. He was really having a hard time in there, and things were looking bleak for Daniels, like real bad, but he managed to hip toss Homicide off the top rope. Fans loved this, of course. I did too. Then he made the tag. AJ comes in. He was smooth, fast, and effective. Hell, even Daniels was gaining momentum at this point. It was really anybody's match, and like Don West said, the team knew that they had to continuously attack in order to win. Homicide was forked. Homicide got his with a fork. Back and forth action, clotheslines, Pele kicks, awesome stuff, and then came this spot. So, all the guys are in the corner, and they hit the Tower of Doom, right? And that wasn't even it, because AJ stands on the top of the cage and gets ready to fly because he hits a damn crossbody. The fans, Tenay and West, they went absolutely crazy. And following this, they all hit their signature moves. And to top it all off, Hernandez, of all people, decides to climb to the top of the cage and jump off. Daniels luckily moved out of the way. Meanwhile, Conan was handing a damn coat hanger to Homicide, and he was a very, very valuable asset. Unfortunately for Styles, he was on the receiving end of a clothesline and then a brutal gringo killer to lose the tag titles. Another great match, ridiculous spots throughout it, blood, staggering moments, awesome, awesome, awesome. Right after the match, though, they continued the attack before celebrating and raising their flags. And so that's the feud. Really great. Why? It was intense, brutal, entertaining, great matchups. I like the story of how they were fighting champions. AJ and Daniels, they weren't going to let these guys come in and do whatever the hell they wanted. And yeah, it was just brutal. The segments were brutal. The contract signing, that was intense. If they were within walking distance of each other, they always fought. That's one thing to know. But yeah, it's definitely the best TNA feud, tag team feud of 2006. It's one of the best tag team feuds in wrestling from that year. It's one of the best tag team feuds of the decade. Hell, it was that damn good. It was very entertaining, and I suggest you watch it if you haven't. It was really fun. Once again, a great feud. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you do. And I will definitely make more TNA content in the near future, so yeah. And that's your first video. Make sure you hit a gringo killer on the like button, and perhaps the Styles Clash and the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.